So hello Cheever, today we are with a new guest. I am in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, and I am with an awesome guest. He's a seduction expert. I know you know him. He's Ross Jeffries and his website is seduction.com. It's simple and it's powerful. So hello Ross.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous mon ami?
Très très bien, et toi?
Je m'appelle Ross Jeffries.
Yeah.
Laroche Seduction. Did I get that right? Roy is French for king?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Roi.
Well, whatever.
Yeah. You are the king of seduction.
And you know, I was very inspired originally by Voltaire. Voltaire said in one of his books, give me 10 minutes to talk away my ugly face and I'll get the Queen of France into bed. I remember reading that when I was about 19 years old, and I thought, you know, there's got to be a way to do that. I don't know what it is, but Voltaire is right.
So you worked a lot to find the way.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. See, I believe if a man is not super good looking or naturally confident or doesn't have a lot of money or status, he has to rely on his ability to communicate with women. He has to know what to listen for, what to get women talking about, and how to notice her responses and shape those responses so she begins to look at him through a certain set of emotions. To me, the art of seduction is about recognizing that women don't look at men through just their eyes. Women look at men through the emotions they have about the men they're looking at. So it's very crucial that we learn how to not cause, I would say cultivate those emotions in the woman, so she looks at us through them.
Cool.
This is the understanding of a seducer.
Yeah, so it's not only your looking, but the emotion your ability to provoke emotion. That's right.
Provoke is not the word. Well, sometimes I can provoke, but I wouldn't use the word provoke. I would say cultivate, awaken. You understand?
Yeah.
If you want, simmer, cook.
Yeah, I understand.
You understand?
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Cool.
But sometimes I'll provoke. Provoking people can be a way to generate curiosity. I've been known to provoke women just to get them curious about me. Very powerful. If you can get a woman curious, that's just a step away from getting her wondering about you, and that's just a step away from getting her fascinated with you.
And
that's just one step away from getting her clothes off. I've had many women tell me, after I had them in bed, why did you sleep with me? And they said, you know, when I looked at you, I didn't find you particularly attractive, but you were fascinating. I wanted to know more. And once I wanted to know more, then you got my body excited. And then I had to sleep with you. This is the simple formula that translates into any culture, any language. Some of the exact words I give won't translate into French, but the principles that I'm saying work all over the world.
So how do you...
N'est-ce pas?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you awake curiosity?
Oh, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to do that. A woman can get curious about the topic of conversation that you're introducing.
Yeah.
Right? So if I bring up the topic of, do you think we create our future or do you believe in destiny? Oh, wow, that's a really interesting topic. That's going to create some curiosity, not only about the topic, but about the kind of man who would even ask that kind of question. So it could be about the topic. I could create curiosity by just the nature of the way I show up. If I show up really funny and really powerful and totally unafraid, she may get curious and think, why is this guy so confident? All the other guys are sort of afraid to talk to me. Why is he so confident? So she could get curious about my attitude. I often do that with women. The other night I was at a party. I walked up to the most beautiful woman there, and I said to her, I saw you here. I noticed that you are by far the most beautiful woman here. So I thought, let's go talk to her and see if she's someone who I'd like to get to know. And then I said, my name's Ross. And she laughed out loud. She said, wow, you're really good at flattering women. I said, no. I just know how to look a woman in the eye and tell her the truth about herself. She went, oh. And I was the one she talked to for the rest of the night. So a woman could get curious about my attitude and why I'm so confident. A woman could get curious about the fact that I don't care that she's not curious. Let's say I say something and she doesn't respond. The fact that I don't care that she's not responding, that may get her curiosity. Like, wait, Why doesn't he care that I'm not interested in him? How dare he reject me? That's not right. Do you understand?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to create that initial curiosity.
And do you think you can use the same thing for sell some things
For what?
for sell a product
For selling things?
yeah
Yeah, actually, yes, but I think when you sell, you have to do some more complicated things. Selling is not as easy as seduction. Seduction is easier. Selling's
for
a
you
little more
maybe,
difficult.
but maybe for a seller
It
it's
depends on
different.
what you're selling.
Yeah.
Because I also teach persuasion. I have a website called Mindframe Persuasion where I teach these tools for persuasion and selling. It's a little bit different because nowadays people are living in a world where they really don't know if they're making a good financial decision. I don't know what happened in France, but in America we had major banks fail. Major banks that people have seen all their lifetimes were wiped out.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And big financial firms that everyone trusted with the retirement money either were wiped out, went out of business, or the government had to bail them out. Real estate, the real estate market here, right here, look out the window. Homes here are now worth less than half of what they were worth 4 years ago. There was a big crash in real estate. So now the problem when you want a lot of money from people is, number one, people quite legitimately don't trust authority anymore because the banks that they used to rely on either went out of business or took their tax money. Number two, financial decisions that used to make sense, buying real estate, no longer do. So if you're going to sell something that requires a lot of money, first you have to convince the person that you're not trying to sell them anything. You have to frame it as an education. You have to frame it as a journey of learning, and that you're a very trusted authority or friend that they can trust. Then the rest of the job has to take place inside of that. So I think selling, yes, these tools apply, but you have to do more work.
Cool. Do you have some advices to overcome fear?
I don't believe there is any such thing as fear. Fear is not a thing, like my shoe. This is my shoe, that's a thing. My eye is a thing, although some people would argue it's not a thing. But fear is not a thing. It's a process that people do. It's an activity that we label as fear, but is not a thing that's stuck in your body somewhere. It is a neurological action or activity. If it is in fact an activity, that implies it changes over time. By definition, an activity is a process that changes over time. It may change its speed, it may change its power, its volume, whatever. This is a key understanding in NLP.
Yeah.
A key understanding in NLP is most people, by the way we use language, we freeze our world into things called love, or things called fear, or things called confidence. In NLP, they use the term, and I don't know what your French word for it is, nominalization. Were you taught this about nominalizations?
Yeah, I
Where
understand.
it's when you take a process and you turn it into a thing. So my first big answer to you is, please understand, I don't believe there is a thing called fear. People have the experience of fearing. They do the activity of fearing. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So the first key to changing any of these processes is to begin to realize it's not a thing, it is an activity going on in your neurology, in your brain, in your body. That's the first step. The minute you begin to see it as an activity, then you make contact with it and you can do all sorts of things with it. You can ground it into your feet. Oftentimes what I tell my students is, feel your feet on the ground, breathe into your belly, loosen your upper body and smile, and see what happens to the sensation, the flow of fear. And it will very quickly go away. That's just one answer. I have 12 different ways to overcome fear or anxiety.
Cool.
That's one very quick one. But the understanding, the foundation for all of these methods is that understanding that foundation, that they're not things.
Yeah.
Confidence is not a thing. It is an activity that you do or undergo.
Okay.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
In this sense, it's very Buddhist. The Zen Buddhists don't believe in a thing called a tree. In Zen, they would say it's the activity called a tree. Yes?
Yeah.
So my goal is to get people to unfreeze their world, both linguistically by teaching them to use their language in a different way, and then neurologically by teaching them to meditate and to be present with the flow of feel in their body.
The fact that it is not a thing and an activity, you can change it easily. But if it is a thing, you
by nature, this table is not going to become a flower.
Oh.
It's stuck being a table unless you
sorry.
destroy it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. So a key understanding of NLP is to see how our language tends to freeze our world instead of free our world.
Cool. And do you have another tip, advice? You have 12, so
that's one. So feel your feet on the ground,
Yeah.
breathe into your belly, loosen your upper body, defocus your vision. So you're looking peripherally through the sides of your vision. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And smile. That's one that always works. Another one is to change the meaning of the activity. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Oftentimes my students say, I'm terrified of talking to a beautiful woman. I say, really? And they say, yes. I said, what if there is a criminal sneaking up behind her with a knife about to slice her purse off her arm? Could you talk to her then? And they say, sure. In fact, I'd yell to get out of the way, and then I'd run over and I'd tackle the guy and take the knife away. So I say to them, wait a minute. Where there's no danger and there's no person with a knife, you're terrified to talk to her. But if there's someone who could kill you with a knife, you have no fear. Does that make any sense to you? And they go, no, it doesn't make any sense. I said, have you ever considered that going up and talking to a woman is actually doing her a favor? It's not something that you should be ashamed or embarrassed about. You're actually going to make her day. They go, oh. So you can change the meaning of the activity. So suddenly they realize, oh, it's not a bad thing to do it. The meaning of the activity is, I'm going to go have some fun.
And to do that alone, you have to wonder, you have to question you have to ask you some things. If I am alone and I am afraid from something, how can they change the meaning of something?
Very smart question. You ask good questions.
Cool.
What you need to do is prepare to be afraid. Rehearse being afraid and then rehearse doing something to get out of that state of fear. I'll tell you a story.
Yeah, I love
Let's say you and your lovely, she's off camera, you and your lovely friend are walking down the street here and God forbid you get mugged. You know what mugged means? Someone jumps out, beats you up, takes your money.
Okay.
Yes? The next night, you decide, I'm going to walk down the same street. The same guy jumps out, takes your money, beats you up again. By the third night, you probably either not walk down that street or you be ready. It's not going to take you by surprise anymore.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So when someone has a habit, what I say is, in an area of life that's difficult or has been difficult, these old responses of fear, anxiety are going to come up. Not because you want to sabotage yourself. They come up because they have momentum. They come up because after so many repetitions, they just have their own momentum. Do you understand what I mean by momentum?
Yeah, they have their own speed.
You know, if you take a car, you get it rolling downhill, you can shut the engine off. It's going to go faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
It's F equal ma, force equal mass times acceleration. It's one of Newton's laws of motion. So Ross, I have my laws of that say it's the same with emotion and patterns of thinking. They have momentum and they're going to come up. So you got to be prepared for them. Be ready to be afraid, rehearse being afraid, and then rehearse doing something. So rehearse the fact that the guy's going to jump out with you, have something ready to shoot. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get the metaphor?
I love that.
N'est-ce pas?
Yeah.
What does n'est-ce pas mean? Understand or not true? Or?
Isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. N'est-ce pas?
Okay. We were.
I told you I'll give you a lot of good answers. You don't need to worry.
And we were talking about fear.
Yes.
Do you think, how can we build the self-confidence? I think it's a muscle.
It's a muscle? Really?
Yeah.
Literally. It's actually a muscle. Where? Where does it attach? Does it attach to the bicep?
Just here.
So that's a metaphor. This
Yeah.
is another example of using NLP. You just gave me a metaphor. You said self-confidence is a muscle.
Yeah.
You don't mean it literally. You mean it as a metaphor. And when you say exercise, you don't mean it literally in the sense of moving weight. You mean repetition.
That's right.
Okay, so part of NLP is listening to people's metaphors and saying, oh, is that metaphor useful? Is it accurate? what, based on that metaphor, can I predict about the person's thinking and behavior? So I'm giving you an NLP lesson as we're doing the interview.
Yeah, I love that.
Listen to the metaphor. So you're, what
is your interpretation of my metaphor?
Of confidence?
Yeah, of my metaphor.
My interpretation is that you've read that somewhere and said that makes sense, but you didn't ever really think it through. I mean no disrespect to you. But you never actually thought, oh, that's a metaphor. You took it as being literal, as a guide. I mean no disrespect, that's my interpretation.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. So, but oftentimes that's how people's thinking work. Metaphors are powerful because people accept them as being true because the unconscious recognizes structure rather than content. If I said love is a battlefield, a lot of people will go, yeah, that makes sense, because it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
Or the unconscious mind is trained to recognize stories, metaphors, and to just accept them. You get an age regression. People turn into a 3-year-old. Like, when children of every culture like their parents to read stories to them. Yes?
Yeah.
When you were a little boy, did your parents read to you?
Yeah.
Le Petit Prince, you know this book, The Little Prince? I don't know what they read to you. Pippi Longstocking, do you have this character?
No.
Fifi.
Bras d'Acier.
Yeah, whatever. Whoever it is. The unconscious mind recognizes certain structures as a signal to turn off the critical brain and to just accept. Once upon a time, far, far away, in a land that was enchanted, right away you go, oh, that's a story, relax, listen, right? Did you ever see Star Wars?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right? Mm-hmm. It's setting up that this is a fairy tale, so just relax and watch. How would you say that in French? A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Il y a bien longtemps. Il y a bien longtemps.
That means in a galaxy far away?
Non, il y a bien longtemps depuis une... Il y a bien longtemps depuis une galaxie très très lointaine.
Ah, love it. See? So I have to give the NLP lesson here. Without people are going to think I'm being rude to you. I don't mean that. People accept metaphor as being, oh, it sounds sensible, so therefore I'm going to accept it. But in fact, I don't think self-confidence is something that needs to be exercised. It simply needs to be understood and aimed at the right way. And we have to define it. I think there are different kinds of confidence. You could aim for the wrong kind and wind up tying your shoes in a knot and falling over. That's a metaphor. I don't mean literally you're going to tie your shoes in a knot. Yeah. But it painted a picture in your mind that you could see vividly, didn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. The metaphor is extremely powerful. It creates a state of suggestibility and it paints vivid mental imagery. And you combine a state of suggestibility and vivid mental imagery and people will just believe it, even if it's not accurate or true. This is why religion has more power to convince people than science, because religion uses metaphor and story. Science speaks accurately in the language of measurement. And while that's far more useful for finding truth, it doesn't convince people very well.
Right, it's amazing.
So, confidence. Let me get back to this. I think there's what I call performance confidence. This means you've done something very well 1,000 times. So 1,001, you have every reason to believe you'll do well. I have performance confidence when it comes to doing these interviews.
Yeah,
do I look confident to you?
Yeah.
Do I look confident to you? I'm very comfortable. I know I've done it 1,000 times. I know I'll do well with it. I know what I'm talking about. That's performance confidence. The problem is many people want performance confidence before they've done much performing at all. They want to guarantee they'll do well at something before they've done a lot of practice or performing. So they're stuck in a prison, to use a metaphor. They don't do any performing and they never get any confidence and they sit there chasing their own tail and they think about it and they think about it and they think about it. You get it?
Yeah.
There's performance confidence. But then there's what I call acceptance confidence. Acceptance confidence says, right now, I'm not very good at this and I don't feel very comfortable, but I accept that. I accept the fact that I'm not sure what I'm doing. I accept the fact that I feel uncertain and let's go see what I can do.
Yeah.
It doesn't wait for a feeling of certainty. You understand? That's acceptance confidence. That's far more powerful for people who really want to make progress.
And it will maybe,
And I teach this to my students. I teach them acceptance confidence.
and the consequence will be maybe performance confidence.
Because they're more likely. Now, if you take acceptance confidence and you wrap around it the ability to have fun, to actually enjoy not being very good at something, not knowing what's going to happen, then you really got people moving, because now they don't wait for a guarantee and they're fine with whatever happens and they're having fun. And that's attractive. Listen to me. A person who doesn't need a guarantee of success, a person who's open to what the world brings and is not afraid to fall on their face, to use a metaphor, a man who doesn't need a guarantee and who's happy and laughing when he's stumbling is attractive.
Yeah.
Because so many people want a guarantee of success. I know so many beautiful women who are actually very afraid of life because there's something in their life they want to do and they want a guarantee. So when someone walks up to her and is uncertain and maybe a little nervous but doesn't care, that's attractive on a level that you can't explain with words. She'll say, have you ever heard women say, I don't know what it is about him, there's just something about him. That's one of those somethings. I'm an expert in explaining what those somethings are and then showing guys how to do that something. I can see into the things that other people cannot see. I can extract that and go, this is the essence of it, now here's how you do it. There's another kind of confidence.
The third one.
Okay, yes. So you say. There's another kind of confidence that I call compassion confidence. One of the biggest lessons for me is watching my father die. My father died June 19th, 2008. I was there with my father when he left this world. And at the moment, just before he died, he opened his eyes and looked around at everyone, then he died. And I remember touching my father's body. He was still warm and thinking, wow, it's over for him. This is it. He's gone. This is the shell of my father. Now that was very interesting because I'd never even thought of that idea, the shell of my father. I never even thought of that idea. And here he was right in front of me. I thought, this is going to happen to me one day. One day my game is all going to be over and I'm not going to get another chance. This is reality. I thought, what difference does it make what anyone thinks about me or what a woman says or does? I better live my life and really enjoy and not worry about what someone's going to say, because one day I will be here. But the other realization is every woman that I approach or talk to, when she was born wearing the same thing that I was born wearing, right? What were you wearing the moment you were born? Nothing. What were you wearing the moment you were born? Nothing. One day, death is going to come for you. And what's going to happen? You're going to stop breathing. I guarantee it's going to happen for her too. Compassion confidence is realizing on some level that that person you want to approach or sell or to do whatever is in the same condition as you are. They were born, they're going to die, and in between they're trying to figure it out, make some sense of it, and find some meaning. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now some people want to do more than that. Some people want to hurt other people. Some people want to create empires. But basically, it's the understanding we're all in the same condition.
To find a meaning.
Through birth, through all the way to death, we suffer. Right? People suffer from, the Buddhists say the three major impurities in consciousness are craving. We get pleasure and we want more. Aversion. There's pain and we don't want it, or we don't want our pleasure to go away. And there's unconsciousness. We're not aware that we're doing things. Things just come up. Every human being has the same condition. I don't care how beautiful your girlfriend is, or your wife, or I don't know exactly what her title is, or her relationship to you. She is subject to the same gravity as you are. If we jump off a building, we're all going to fall at 32 feet per second per second. This is the law of nature.
We follow the same laws.
Right now, we're all subjected to the same atmospheric pressure. I don't know what it is, pounds per square inch, right? We all convert energy the same way to the mitochondria of our cells. If you eat a meal tonight, probably within 18 hours, something's going to happen that will happen for her, for a fat person, an ugly person. So compassion confidence is having a little corner of your mind where you go, you know, no matter what's going on, no matter how I feel, that person is fundamentally in the same condition as I am. They may have different plumbing. I may be excited looking at them, but fundamentally, we're in the same condition. And you can't really fear someone or hate someone that you see as being in the same condition as yourself, can you?
It is like a brother.
Or a sister. Now, it's one thing to get that as a concept. When you start to meditate, this is why I believe meditation is more important than NLP. NLP never made me any wiser. It never made me any more loving. It never made me any more compassionate. It's not designed to do that. That's not what it's designed to do. It's not a comment about NLP. You could have a beautiful camera, but it's not a very good refrigerator. It's not designed to do that. I only started to become that way through meditating. When you meditate, this concept that we're all in the same condition becomes a reality. It's not just a concept. You get it organically. You get it with your body. If only for a few moments, but it carries over into waking, walking life off the meditation cushion.
Great.
So those, and there's one more form of confidence.
Yeah, the last one.
Learning confidence. It says no matter what happens, I have the ability to extract the lesson and learn what I need to learn. So if I said to a guy, what if you were guaranteed that when you approached a woman, even if you didn't get what you want with her, I guarantee you, you'll learn exactly the lesson, so the next time you'll do it right. Would you be so reluctant to approach? He said, no, probably not. So I teach learning confidence.
It's the same thing, for example, to build a company. If you will learn at the first company, maybe you will fail, but the next one will succeed.
Correct. Now, many people say this, but did they teach you exactly how to learn from your lessons? Everyone says learn from your lessons.
Yeah.
To me, that's like saying be a fantastic piano player.
Great.
Well, how am I supposed to do it? How specifically do I learn from my lessons? That's another thing that I teach. I'm more proud of that. My ability to teach guys how to learn from their lessons, I'm more proud of that. That's more difficult than teaching them what to say and do with women. Teaching them what to say and do with women is relatively trivial compared to teaching them how to manage their emotions and to learn from their lessons quickly. That's far more difficult. And my claim to you is there's no one else in this seduction community who even understands what that's about. What to say can actually teach guys how to do it. I'm the only one. I mean, I honestly think I'm the only one in the world who understands that.
How can I learn from my experiences?
First of all, I think people have to have a real tolerance for uncertainty. They need to be able to enjoy, or at least tolerate, doing things where they're not sure what's going to happen. They need a way of accurately recording what happened, and then they need a way of analyzing it and going, what really happened here? If I look from different perspectives, if I look from the other person's perspective, what happened? If I look from my perspective, what happened? If I imagine being a third person looking at both of us, what happens? So you have to be able to take on different perspectives in your mind. And you need to learn how to recognize when a trance is beginning to develop, or you're beginning to want to go into a trance that allows you to learn just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And when a person can see that's what's already starting to happen for themselves, then they realize, wow, I can learn. When you were learning to tell time, to read a clock, there was a while where you were very confused. You didn't understand what it meant. I mean, how can I read? What does it mean? The hands on the 12, the hands on the 5. Why doesn't that equal 17? 12 plus 5 is 17. I don't get it. But suddenly one day you looked at it and the understanding blossomed up from the unconscious mind. And now you cannot not understand reading a clock. If you looked at a clock, you would automatically be able to read it, unless you were very, very drunk.
The same thing to learn to walk,
or to do simple arithmetic, or you understand? So ultimately, learning requires conscious practice and then getting out of the way and letting the understanding flow up from the unconscious. So we have to learn to develop a good relationship with your unconscious mind, which requires, I think, a practice of meditation, self-hypnosis. I have a very good, rich unconscious, very creative. Sometimes when I'm struggling with a problem, I'll dream about diamonds, finding diamonds in my home. and gathering them together and putting them in a little bag and putting them in the safe. But I like to look at them in my dream and sift through them. And that's a metaphor for my unconscious mind saying, oh, there's gems of creativity here. So we need to learn to listen to our unconscious mind, to have a practice of self-hypnosis. I'm very aware of my dreams. In the morning when I awaken, I'll spend 20 minutes laying there remembering as much of my dreams as I can.
Why?
Because it's showing respect for my unconscious mind. It's saying, I'm open to these messages, please keep sending them. And it teaches me something about my thinking. I tend to dream in puns and jokes.
Do you write what you...
I just remember, sometimes I write it, but I spend 20 minutes thinking about it, recalling the dreams and saying, what does that mean? Every once in a rare while is a gift. My unconscious, while I'm dreaming, will interpret a dream for me. It'll say, you're asleep, would you like to know what this dream means as you're having it? I'll say yes. But this is because I've spent years showing respect for my unconscious by remembering my dreams, by honoring it.
And do you think we can influence the other part of this world about the energy, energetic?
My personal opinion?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And how we can learn to do that and how we can do that?
That's a separate question. You're now asking me, you didn't say, do you believe that we can influence it and how do you learn to do it?
Yeah.
I didn't say it was learnable, did I?
No.
So let's not make that assumption. I think we're now getting into an area where we have to be very careful. Here's the problem. These experiences of this non-material world look a lot like just fantasy and imagination. They look pretty much like what we would just hallucinate or dream up. So it's very, very difficult to tell what's actually happening and what's just in our mind. So this takes a very disciplined mind, and we're really straying way off from the topic. Let's just say, I believe these things happen, but they're a lot more flaky and random than the material stuff.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're not real.
I understand.
N'est-ce pas?
I would like to know more about your business and about you build it. And according to you, why did you succeed in this field?
I think I came along, first of all, at the right time. I started this in 1988, before there was really an internet. Technically speaking, there was an internet. It was called ARPANET. It was the way universities would talk to each other, university labs. So UCLA campus is about 3 miles that way. If you were a scientist at UCLA and you wanted to talk to someone at the University of Chicago, you could use that net to send email and that kind of thing, data. But I came along just as the internet age was dawning, and no one else was doing this. At the time, I did a lot of TV talk shows. And then a student of mine who's a computer hacker said, you should get on the internet. I said, what's that? He said, I'll show you. And then the web came along, and in 1994, I was on the web with Seduction.com. And I had a period of time from 94 to about 2000 where I was the only one doing this. We were printing money, not literally, but as a metaphor. I came along at the right place at the right time. That's number one. But number two, I believe I have the personality to do this. I like being on camera. I can't understand for the life of me, I cannot understand how someone would be nervous about being on camera or being on stage. I absolutely have the personality for it. I have the ability to understand the way guys who are very left brain, engineers, computer scientists, I understand and respect how they think. So I can get through to them. I can get their attention long enough to show them how to get onto the other side of that. They respect me when I talk to them. They understand that I've been through these experiences. I believe that it is my destiny to be doing this. It is my path in life to be doing what I'm doing now. It's not just a job. It is my calling. That's why I'm here.
Maybe a mission?
A mission, avocation, whatever you want to call it. Someone once wrote about me, a magazine in Europe, they called me the sex messiah of the nerds. The messiah, but in a sense I'm a messiah to some of these guys. I'm their savior. They were walking in darkness. I pulled the darkness off their eyes, you know.
Right.
It's Jesus healing the blind man. I'm using it as a metaphor. I don't really believe I'm Jesus, okay?
Yeah.
So, but there's something messianic about it. I do this because I have to do it, really. And I think that's a difference. You'll see that if you talk to other people in the field. They'll talk to you about what great seducers they are. I haven't even brought up that topic. I've never even said that. I'm only talking to you about how much I love my work, how it works, and how much I help my students.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I think everybody have to find their own mission, their own ways.
I don't know that everyone is meant to or that everyone can. I'm fortunate enough that I did. And finally, the final element is I'm insanely curious. I want to know how things work. It's not enough for me to get something where I want to understand how it works. And I was taught by my mother to think outside of the box, to not accept something as being true just because someone says it. Right?
Yeah.
So I never accepted this idea that you have to be good looking or that you have to have a lot of money. I thought, no, this isn't true. I've seen guys who are not good looking and don't have money, and they get women. So there's got to be a way to do it. Right?
Yeah.
So I think creatively, and then once I want an answer, I never give up. I never give up. I never, ever, ever give up looking. I looked for years before I found NLP in '87. I tried all sorts of things to find it. And even then, in '87, there was no NLP application for picking up girls or seducing. I had to create it. I had to sit there and watch Richard Bandler's videos for days and days and go to seminars, but I had to extract it out and think, wait, I can take this idea that Richard's talking about here and let's go run some experiments and see if it works for seduction and getting girls. There was no one I copied in that sense. So it required me to be creative and then to go test things and to analyze the results and then be creative again. I have the ability to be creative, but then be very analytical too. So I'm built to do this. My mind is absolutely built to do this. I was fortunate enough to have that kind of mind. And then the way I was brought up, where my mother taught me, first of all, my mother and father taught all of us children that we were the smartest people in the world, that everyone else was dumb compared to us, and we could do anything. That's what we were taught. And my mother in particular, if I asked her a question, she wouldn't tell me the answer. She'd say, go look it up. We didn't have a lot of money. I wouldn't say we were poor, but we were just above poor. But we always had money for books. We had a set of encyclopedias. Back then, there was no web. People read books.
Yeah, I think we have to read books.
And so my mother would say, go look it up. And if there wasn't an answer in the encyclopedia, she'd take me to the library. If there wasn't an answer in the library, you know what she would say? You know what my mom would say? You be the one to go find the answer. You go make the answer.
Great. So it's amazing, because my next question is, do you have some advices for youth to succeed in life and become happy in this life?
The greatest teacher I've ever met is not Richard Bandler or any of these people from the NLP world, although Richard is a genius, a world-class genius. Amazing. The greatest teacher I met was in 2006. His name is Shinzen Young, Shinzen Young. He is to meditation what Milton Erickson was to hypnosis, in my opinion, what Albert Einstein was to physics. He brought meditation to me and really made it available to me. And he taught me there are two kinds of happiness. I never really got it before. Other people had said it, but Shinzen really drove the point home. I hope I can drive this point home. There's two kinds of happiness. There's the happiness that's dependent on conditions. You're getting what you want. You're with the people you want to be with. They're treating you the way they want you. You want them to treat you. You're making the money you want. You're enjoying. You're living where you want to live. You have the things you want to own. You're enjoying the sex that you want to enjoy, whatever it is. There's happiness dependent on conditions. And that's perfectly legitimate. We as human beings are designed to seek that out, and that's great. And through meditation and that practice, I've learned there's a happiness that has nothing to do with conditions. There's an unconditional happiness that has nothing whatsoever to do with the conditions of your life.
Great.
And that kind of happiness is profoundly satisfying. There's a difference between pleasure and satisfaction. There's a difference between pain and suffering. It's possible for human beings to be in objective conditions that would seem to be miserable, but to bring an awareness to those conditions where the suffering is transformed into something else. And that means you stop being afraid of life. Because no matter what happens, there's a way of being aware of it where even though it may hurt like hell, it doesn't turn into suffering. And when you do have pleasure, you don't go crazy trying to get more of it or grab onto it. You can experience a satisfaction. Now, I am only an infant in this. I'm barely learning to walk with this practice. I'm into it. I'm in my 7th year and I'm not very disciplined with it, and I don't do it hardly enough, but it has really profoundly transformed me. The people who knew me before I did it they would recognize my physicality, but they wouldn't recognize the person. Well, in some ways, I've always been brilliant and funny. They would recognize that, but my beliefs about what's important in life have changed. I still love beautiful women. I still like helping men to achieve their goals. I still like fucking and all that great stuff. But there's something else I've experienced. I experienced it when I watched my father die. Something that you would think would be a horrifying experience. And understand, I lived my adult life fearful of losing my parents, afraid I would go insane because I loved them that much. But I was with my dad when he died, and it was both terribly painful and at the same time transcendentally beautiful. It sounds, I know, if I had heard me talking this way 10 years ago, I'd say, this guy's fucking crazy. He's making it up. I've had experiences in meditation. Just for over 6 years of meditating, I've had maybe, in aggregate, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of this experience. Not all at once, but scattered little bits. I've experienced a peace that is beyond human understanding. They talk about it in the Gospels, a peace beyond human understanding. I've experienced that directly, not as a concept, but as a reality. I've experienced a satisfaction that teaches me that I am not separate from the world. I am not a thing living inside of another thing called the world.
It's
You
great.
understand?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And listen to me. I've experienced that very, 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 very briefly. I'm not talking about enlightenment or any of that. I'm a child in this, barely learning to walk compared to someone like Shinzen who's been doing it 40 years with far more consistency than me. But I would say to people, work on both sides of that equation. Work on being happy, improving your conditions, but learn a practice that teaches you happiness independent of conditions. It's possible. And understand something. Also understand that sometimes life is not about simply learning new behaviors. It's about cultivating different kinds of consciousness. There's creative consciousness, which NLP teaches beautifully, how to get in touch with your unconscious mind, how to visualize the way you would like to be, how to use hypnosis to vividly create new pathways and new behaviors, new beliefs. It's beautiful. I practice and teach it. Creative consciousness. There's witness consciousness, where you learn, like meditation, where you learn to be present with whatever is happening with great precision and great concentration and great permission. So you're aware exactly what's going on. You can, with great sensory clarity, with permission. You don't try to control it, and with focus, you keep your attention there. That's witness consciousness. And then there's will, the development of focus, where you will continue to return to your goal no matter what the interruptions are. Creative consciousness, witness consciousness, will consciousness, and then finally There's the cultivation of life energy, whether it's doing Qigong or yoga, I do yoga, or Tai Chi. It's cultivating the energy of life. The Qi, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You need to learn those 4 things. And then any skills you put inside of those will be much easier to do and be far more powerful. So I would say to people, cultivate those 3 kinds of consciousness, find your own practice that works for you. And cultivate life force energy, find a practice that does that, and then do what you're going to do. And that will allow you to achieve. See, if changing your life just required a different set of plays, a different set of things to do, there are millions of books that tell you different things to do, but we don't have millions and millions of people who've changed their lives. Something's wrong in that equation.
Yeah.
The idea that just by consuming a book you're going to get change is pretty ridiculous. Even if the book is telling you stuff that works.
You have to experiment these 4.
You have to cultivate consciousness.
Great.
That's what I would say.